What's going on, Bucs fans? Back here at the Power Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, JC Allen, and we're going to get into the good, the bad, and the mostly ugly here in the Chiefs' 30-24 overtime loss. The Bucs' overtime loss to the Chiefs here. There's some positives to take away for sure, but man, some missed calls, missed opportunities galore. The Bucs needed that one. They were close, couldn't punch it in. We'll talk about all that and more after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
What is going on back here on the other side? Welcome in. Appreciate everyone tuning in to the Sick Podcast Network and Pirate Parlay here. Great things happening on the network. Great things happening here. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, turning on notifications, telling a friend. Let's grow this platform. Let's grow this podcast to exponential levels. That being said, Buccaneers can't get it done. When we came into this game, and when we talked about, what the Bucs' chances were in this game, a lot of people had this as a straight up blowout. No way that the Bucs are going to be able to hang with the Chiefs. They have a top 5 defense. You talk about the situation here with Mahomes not being Mahomes, but he's still Mahomes. All that and more were surrounding this narrative. Bucs obviously coming in as underdogs in Arrowhead, one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. And for all that, the Bucs hung around. So before we get into all the negatives, we'll start there. And not only hung around, Bucs had a lead at one point as well. There's a lot of positives to take from this. The offense is still humming. That's for sure. Liam Cohen has this offense. I don't care who it is. Cade Otton stepping up. Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer, the unlikeliest of Ryan Miller catching a touchdown to tie the game up with 27 seconds left to go. Getting contributions on special teams, also getting hurt on special teams. We'll talk about that as well. But you score 24 points, you should be able to win a football game. It's been the story of the Bucs season so far. The defense just can't get it done. Happened last week against the Falcons, happened against the Ravens, happened against the Falcons the first time. Defense making mistakes, defense making mental errors. They've got a middle of the field being targeted. When I talked about this game in my Keys to Cannon Fire article that I put out every week, check it out over on SI Bucs Game Day. The first thing I said is you got to keep Mahomes off the field. And you look at what Mahomes was able to do, and it was quite the opposite. The Chiefs entered this game as the number 2 offense in the league, converting at a second best rate on third down, just behind the Bucs. The Bucs defense came in ranked 19th, and it showed. Mahomes just tore this team apart. He went 11 on 11, 11 of 12 passing on third down, 3 touchdowns on third down. The Chiefs as a team went 12 and 18 on third down. The Bucs defense just had no answers for it. Whether it was the middle of the field, where again the Bucs struggled, allowing 10 receptions for 85 yards, 3 first downs and a score, or whether it was targeting the outside. Guy like Josh Hayes, made his first defensive snaps last week in a meaningful game. He comes in and he's a starter this week after Tyreek Funderburk struggled last week and replaced him at halftime. And there you have it. That's game. Third down, so efficient. Keys to Cannon Fire. Keep Mahomes off the field. Be efficient on third down. Don't be afraid to dink and dunk down the field. Efficiency on third down. Check that box office and no. Bucs were 5 of 11 on third down. Chiefs again 12 for 18, 11 for 12 passing, 3 touchdowns, 3 first downs. You can't do that. You can't do that and expect to beat the reigning back-to-back Super Bowl champions, undefeated Chiefs. And that's where it starts, really. There were some self-inflicted penalties and such as well, but third down against the Chiefs matters. Against any team matters, but especially against this Chiefs team, who is, the conversion rate was 50.5%, second best in the league behind the Bucs. And there was a tale of two teams. One team was able to do it, and one team wasn't able to do it. Now, the Chiefs defense, was top 12 in shutting defense, third down options. So, they were pretty good. Bucs ranked 19th. But, I mean, those two rankings, 34.9, 38.8, are minuscule. They're 4.1 points off, or 3.9. But, they were able to turn it up and get those first downs, and the Bucs weren't. And that's the story of the game. That's it. That's the story of the game right there. Bucs can't convert on third down. Chiefs can convert on third down multiple times. If you don't have any answers for Patrick Mahomes and what he can do to beat you, there's no answers. Todd Bowles tried to get linebackers, different linebackers involved. Dime looks involved. J.J. Russell, and KJ Britt, essentially split time there at the, Britt finished with more, but Russell saw a lot of time there as well. We can talk about the Bucs getting, looking at the deadline for an inside linebacker. Highly doubt it's going to happen. But that's where it boils down to. Middle of the field defense, bad again. Those linebackers, third down defense, ties hand in hand. 3 of those first downs were converted across the middle. They're struggling. They're struggling there. And when the offense is consistently giving you 24 plus points on the board, you got to be able to convert. You got to be able to hold defenses. You got to be able to convert on third down. You got to be able to put points on the board. But that being said, there were plenty of opportunities taken away from the Bucs. Can we talk about that Tristan Wirfs phantom face mask call? Like, I always hear the Chiefs are in the back pocket. The refs are in the Chiefs' back pocket, rather. I always hear it. You're like, yeah, it's NFL. I mean, refs are whatever. But until you actually watch a game, like a close game and like that magnitude, and you're really paying attention, I'll watch Chiefs games on in the background, but like I'm not watching intently like I am against the Bucs because that's the team I'm watching intently. The refs are terrible, just terrible. Not just the phantom face mask call, the holding call on Cody Malk that wipes out a first down. The holding call, the non-holding call on KJ Britt. When you call the holding call on Cody Malk drives earlier, same thing that he did, and you're going to get one but not the other. Multiple false starts on the Chiefs that weren't called. And remember, this is something that they were dealing with in week 1 against the Ravens. They're still letting them get away with it. It's bad. The refs have been atrocious this season, but in a game like that, it's hard to not say there's a narrative. It's hard to, The Chiefs are great for ratings. The NFL, it's great for ratings. Taylor Swift's in the house. Three-peat, first team to ever do it. Help them win. Help them win. You'd expect makeup calls here, and the non-call and the defensive pass interference on that final drive. Bucs overcame it. But, I mean, he got there pretty early to me. Didn't look like he was actually playing the ball. Well, I mean, I guess his head was facing the ball, but it didn't look like he had eyes on the ball. Looking at the ball, turning towards the ball, playing the ball are two different things. A little early there. Penalties killed him. And the worst part is penalties weren't necessarily their fault. That's the worst part about it. And you see the discrepancy. Chiefs only called for 3, Bucs called for 6. But again, that's not to take any. You come out of the first quarter, right? And the first play of the second quarter is a delay of game on the offense. Those are some mistakes that you got to clean up. Luke Gedeke with the false start. So not every penalty, was called that shouldn't have been called. You got to play a little bit cleaner. Mental errors. You get the false start that you get the delay a game that backs you up, and you can try to overcome it. But again, like you're putting yourself in disadvantageous positions. Chiefs beating Chiefs. Bucks beating Bucks. What can you do? But yeah, that phantom face mask call was something that that was wild. That was pretty wild. I got some people in the comments. What's up, guys? Nathan Elliott first hit the like button. What's up, JC? What's going on, my man? James Martinez says lose mentality by the coach as usual. I heard people saying all year that the Chiefs are getting help from the refs, and I was like, man, whatever. But damn, that was unbelievable, says James. Bry says, I tried to tell everyone we needed to pull together and outbid the Chiefs. Can't beat them if you can't pay the refs more than them. Yeah. Yeah. David Wash, he asks, is it both coaching or player execution? It's a little bit of both. Bulls has a very complex system. And when it's humming, it's humming. It was good to finally see the front four get pressure. Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, 4 sacks between the two. Vita Vea set the tone early on that first drive with that sack, knocking them out of field goal position, giving your offense a chance, to go score the first points of the game. Obviously, they didn't. And then, again, you're holding them again on their second drive to just 3 points. You come down. You take the lead. You held the lead twice in this game. 3 times. Well, twice. You extended it once. But, front 7, again, you're not getting much out of your edge rushes, which is mind-boggling. But that front interior, Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey, Kalijah came on, knocked on the door, Vita Vea, 10 tackles, 7 solo, 2 sacks. Like, just an outstanding performance from him. Kalijah Kancey, double trouble. He would not be outdone by Vea's 2 sacks. He had to get 2 of his own. The first sack came on a key third down in the first half. That was clutch. And then his second half was Kansas City's first drive of the second half to shut that drive down. 19 yards lost in both of the Kansas City sacks. So it was good to see that. But again, bowl system works when you have players. Bowl system, you have to have the right players. And right now, he doesn't have the right players at linebacker and cornerback. So it's not going to look like it should. But you want to talk about in-game management, because I know everybody does. Everybody wants to talk about in-game management. Go for 2 or play for overtime. What are you guys doing? Because I think when you're in that situation, you're in Arrowhead, you got the Chiefs on the ropes. You know what the field conditions are like. Both teams are exhausted, especially the defense. They had just been out there for, 5 minutes? 8 minutes and 20 seconds scoring drive by Mahomes. They had a 1:49 break on the sideline, plus a timeout. Less than 2 minutes after being on the field for 8 minutes. They're exhausted. And you're going to go trust that maybe they can win the game if the coin toss doesn't go your way. And the Bucs have struggled on 2-point conversions and scoring from the 2. They're 25% from 2 yards out. They're 25% on the season. But in my opinion, and then everyone says hindsight's 20/20, right? Well, foresight. What about foresight, right? Again, all the things I just mentioned. It's a coin flip. We've seen Mahomes do this so many times. You lost earlier in the season on a coin flip in overtime. The defense is gassed. The offense is humming right now. They're doing pretty well. Now you can make the argument that how much have they practiced 2-point conversions? Especially without Jalen McMillan. Oh, that's another thing we'll talk about. did they have the right play, the right personnel or the right play for the right personnel that they had available in the game? I still think you go for that. You go for that because you can't trust. I mean, Baker knew it right away. If you watch that coin flip, and I got a picture on my Twitter handle. He loses the coin toss. Immediately, he's defeated because he knows Mahomes got the ball. Our defense can't stop a lick. I think you go for two. And I know analytics said very minuscule say you kick the play and you play for overtime. But I think you got to go for two in that position. Bowles comes out afterwards and says, well, the field conditions were wet and that contribute. The field conditions were wet when you march down there. Field conditions are going to be wet for your defense. Field conditions are going to be wet for your offense. You're 2 yards out right now from potentially winning the game. 2 yards out. 2 yards out from a win, an upset win over the undefeated, reigning back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions. Or you trust the coin flip to come your way. Tails never fails. It's failed so far. And that's it. Now, the overtime rules suck. Like, I don't understand what we're doing here. I know, like, length of broadcast and all that stuff, especially when we're talking about, 1 o'clock games or whatever. But we got to make it so both teams can touch the ball. Both teams have to be able to touch the ball. Now, I'm not saying college rules where you score 7, I score 7, you score 7. No, but if I get the coin toss, I go down the field and score 7, then the other team goes down and scores 7. Next point wins. That's it. Next point wins. You got 10 minutes or you tie. Kiss your sister. Like, that's it. The Chiefs took 5 minutes off the clock on that overtime drive. Creates a sense of urgency as well, which can make overtime a little bit more exciting. But both teams got to be able to touch the ball. I don't know. I think they should have went for it. Hindsight's 2020. Foresight in the moment, I think, looms a little bit larger, but there's nothing you can do about it. The Bucs lost. Bucs lost in overtime. Mahomes had the ball. And Mahomes not real. Mahomes is a simulation. Just throwing it out there. There's no way that guy's real. I don't see it. I don't see him being a real person. No matter what, this guy sprains his ankle, rolls his ankle, he's back in there, just throws for 291 yards and 3 touchdowns. Runs for a first down. Yeah, he's not a real human being. He's a genetic cyborg or something like that. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the conspiracies and the specifics, but he's not real. But again, even with all that being said, with the penalties, with the third down defense, with the third down offense, with the middle of the field struggles, with what the Bucs were able to do against the Kansas City Chiefs team that hasn't lost since Christmas, I think, of 2023. They did pretty dang good. And there's a silver lining there. Jamel Dean should be back after the bye, hopefully. Mike Evans after the bye, hopefully. It's too big, too. And I know people like to hate on Dean because he's always injured, but he's a really good corner. And especially when they're playing him in press man, there's not many that are better than him. And he's got the speed to keep up with some of these guys. And I guarantee you, he's not doing what Josh Hayes did this past game. Dean's out there, you're probably looking at a win. Mike and Chris are out there. You got to think, the Bucs just lost to Kansas City. Yeah, the Bucs, they lost to Atlanta. Yeah, the Bucs lost to the Ravens. But they've actually looked pretty dang good in their losses. And I know that's whatever. They only got blown out by the Broncos. They've been a very competitive team. And even if it's too late, too little too late, right? Like the Ravens, little too late. Their 3 losses have been competitive. 4 losses with the Falcons. The defense needs some work. They need to tighten things up. The offense is giving you points. In every game this season, 37 points in a win against Washington, 20 points in a win against Detroit. 7-1 Detroit, by the way. You only score 7 in the loss to the Broncos. They just jumped down your throats. And they're a better team than anyone thought. They got a winning record. 33-16 blowout on the Eagles. You're losing overtime to the Falcons, but you still score 30 points. Trounced the Saints after a miserable second quarter where you allowed 27 points, 51-27. You scored 31 against the Ravens. You scored 26 against the Falcons. You scored 24 against the Chiefs. Offense is getting it done. Liam Cohen at the helm has been remarkable. You know, he's for what he has to deal with right now. Ryan frickin' Miller scored the game-tying touchdown, guys. Ryan Miller. If that was on your bingo card, if you had a Ryan Miller anytime touchdown, like I'm starting to let me chase your bets. Because golly, nobody had that. Nobody had that. But that's what it is, you know. He's got Raheem Jarrett, who just came off IR last week. He only finished for 1 catch for 9 yards, but he was a leading wide receiver in snaps. The most snaps at any wide receiver. He was followed around by Trent McDuffie. But again, Bucs without their top 3 wideouts. Top cornerback. And speaking of top 3 wideouts, Jalen McMillan, I think he let a lot of people down last night. You could kind of sense it with Baker when he found out when it was going to happen. You got to protect yourself and hamstring injuries in this team. I got to say it. But at the same time, you need this win. Your practice with you is number 1 all week. You need this win. You need to play through it. You need to go out there, tough it out. Get a Toradol shot or something like that. You know, get the massage gun on it in between series. Gotta go. Gotta go, man. Gotta go. Gotta go. Cade Otton has arrived, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, I should say. Cade Otton is here, and he has made his presence known. He has arrived as tight end 1, and quite frankly, one of the better tight ends in the league right now. Now, I spoke about this before the season. I thought he'd take that jump this year into that kind of mid-tier of tight ends. He might have skipped right past that. And for a second straight game, he's had over 8 catches and 70 receptions. Last week, he finished with 100. This week, 8 receptions, 77 yards on 11 targets and 1 touchdown. Baker missed him. Coming across the middle, he was wide open on one of them. Threw it a little too high, but he would have had him. Cohen beautifully, his touchdown pass, the 11-yard pass from Mayfield. That was a beautiful, beautiful setup by Cohen, having him sneak out. He even got involved in some tight end screens. Cade Otton is a real deal. He's had to step up as the de facto number 1. He's back to Iron Man status. He 98% of the snaps in this game. He's only dipped below 90% of the snaps twice in the last year, this season and last season. He's been an improved blocker for sure. That part of his game has really rounded out. And I was high on Otton. I had him in my mock draft. He was the guy. I had him. Coincidentally, I had Logan Hall, him, and Rachaad White all in the mock draft. It's probably my best year so far. And I always thought he'd need like a year or 2 in an NFL strength and conditioning program to really kind of reach what his floor could be. And now we're seeing that his ceiling is much higher than even I thought it could be. He's that classic guy out there, no gloves, still no gloves. Maybe could have used gloves on that pass from Baker, went a little high, maybe with gloves, it kind of sticks on him. But Cade Otton's arrived. He's tight end 1, and he's been a top tight end the last couple weeks of the season. Now that he's being used more, this offense that Cohen runs typically doesn't feature tight ends. This McVay type system. They've had years where Higbee was a big part of it, or Gerald Everett was a big part of it. Out in the Rams, and obviously this comes from Shanahan. So he's had, Sharp, and his son has Kittle, and they had Vernon Davis with Washington, and so there's been some good tight ends that roll through this offense and be heavily featured. And now it's Cade Otton's time, and he's showing that the moment's not too big for him, and he's going out there and getting the job done. And quite frankly, if it wasn't for Otton, I don't know, and not even just in the passing game, but in the running game as well. I don't know if this offense is the same. Now you got blown up by one play. Allowed the sack on Baker. I think it was a 3-yard sack by Karlaftis. Just kind of Karlaftis got the outside shoulder, and just kind of knocked him off balance. But again, good with the bad. 77 yards, go ahead touchdown for them in the third quarter. Put them up 14-10. Most reliable target they have. 11 targets. Baker, it was bad until that late in that fourth quarter. Baker had only completed 2 passes to wide receivers. Majority of his passes went to running backs and and Otton, But then he started to get some other guys involved. Shepard, obviously, Palmer got involved. You got Jared involved. You got Ryan Miller with the touchdown. But like you got to do better if you're Baker, passing the ball around, get more guys involved. And I thought one of my keys to can fire, dink and dunk. This Chiefs team, ADOT, which is average depth of target, they've allowed 900 yards, about 900 yards on targets 10 yards or less. You got to kind of take advantage of those. There's slower linebackers, Nick Bolton, the safeties, Justin Reed, super aggressive. You gotta get to these quick little dump offs, get the ball in the playmakers' hands, and let them do the rest. They did that here and there, but not enough. They're aggressive against the Chiefs defense, which is one of the worst red zone defenses in the league, allowing scoring points on over 51% of their snaps, almost 52% of their trips down there. And again, that kind of is another reason why maybe you go for it at the end of the game there. I don't know. We'll jump into some more of these comments. I appreciate everyone in here. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, turning on the notifications. Get this out, share it with friends, tell your family. Let's get this booming. Bryce says, dude, visually frustrated that the illegal man downfield was overturned. Spoke volumes. A lot of the calls that people were roasting Bulls on are 50-50 calls. If the coin lands tails, Bucks win. There have been calls like that all year. Oh, that's not guaranteed. Let's say they get the coin toss. It's not guaranteed that they go down there and score a touchdown. Could score a field goal. Mahomes comes down and scores a touchdown. Brian says, I'm not going to sit here and blame the refs. Says that game was still in the Bucks' hand the whole time. It came up short but it was ridiculous. No, you don't blame the refs. You don't blame the refs, and you also can't put it solely on not going for 2. Can't, because they had opportunities. That's the problem. Football is a 60-minute game, and our brain is wired to have recency bias. So the last impactful image that we see is the Bucks going for the tie instead of the 2. Impactful image that we see is the blatant missed calls. We don't see the Baker overthrow or Baker had Palmer early in the game. We don't see the defense, missing a tackle, Josh Hayes flying up for the big hit instead of the wrap up and allowing DeAndre Hopkins to go 15 yards down the field in overtime. Like, we don't see that. We see the big things, the recency bias, things that everyone's talking about, and we forget about all the opportunities the Bucks had. They had multiple chances. This game was never out of hand. 3-0 Chiefs, 7-3 Bucks, 10-7 Chiefs, 14-10 Bucks, 17-10 Bucks, 17-17 tied up, 24-17 Chiefs, 24-24 Bucks. So never more than a one-score game. Never more, and never more than 7 points out of reach. For the Bucks, it was never more than 7 points, and that was the go-ahead touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins. But before that, even when the Chiefs had a lead, 4 points, 3 points, tied up, then it's 7 points. You got to take advantage of opportunities there. So it's not just on Bowles. Bowles' in-game management's got it better. It does. But that's who he is. We knew that from the Jets. But the players got to execute. Players got to execute. You got to know your assignments. You got to know what you're looking at on tape. You got to I don't know how to explain it. And again, too, this is the NFL. Players are going to make plays at the best on best. So you can't get mad at every play someone makes, but tackling has been an issue. Assignment, sound assignment. Know your assignment, execute your assignment. It's been an issue. Now, we won't know that because we don't know the plays, but you can tell by looking that someone's out of place there. There should be somebody there. At least you should know that. I mean, how many little shovel passes do we see Mahomes to Kelsey? You know those are coming. You know those are coming. I get, in zone, you open up the opportunity for there to be space in the field. But if you're seeing Kelsey start to squeak out, you got to know that's coming. And you got to be able to, if not make the stop, make the play. And no one's talking about Antoine Winfield Jr. No one is talking about Antoine Winfield Jr. And rightfully so. Antoine Winfield Jr. is a Pro Bowler. He's an he's not. He's an All-Pro. He's an All-Pro. He's a former Pro Bowler, but he's an All-Pro. And he's the highest paid safety in the league. But he dropped 2 interceptions that would have won the Bucs the game. They're in field goal position. If he makes those picks, they're in field goal position. They kick the field goal, game's over. Bucs don't go to overtime, they win that game. And again, it's hard to put that all, put the entire loss on Antoine Winfield Jr., but forget going for 2. Forget overtime. You have the game won. Interception. Game is won. You kick the field goal. Boom. No need for overtime. No one's talking about that. Everyone's talking about the 2-point conversion. Not going for it. And I understand that too. But again, it's not just one play. It's not just one missed call by the refs. A recency bias is going to say it is. But again, there's a lot of things the Bucs could have done different. And it would have been a different outcome, perhaps. Nathan says that the 50-50 decisions go Todd Bowles' way, then people will be cheering Bowles right now. I think there's just a lot of people that have a bad taste in their mouth about Bowles. And I just think a lot of people want to see him go. I think another reason, too, is people are sick of losing offensive coordinators and really like what Cohen has done and are scared that if Bowles doesn't get fired and they don't promote Cohen to head coach, then the Bucs have a chance of losing him. And now they're stuck with Bowles and a 4th offensive coordinator search, or 3rd rather, but 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. Continuity is key. There's only so many guys on McVay and Shanahan's staff that you can pluck, and a lot of them are gone. Zach Robinson gone, Clint Kubiak gone, Liam Cohen gone. Like the well only goes so deep before they start running out of guys. You got to let these guys develop in the system before you start plucking them again. So I think that's a lot of people just don't have strong thoughts about defensive head coaches in the first place, because it's one thing if the offense is struggling, right? You can give play calling duties to an offensive coordinator. As a head coach, step away. Give them to an offensive coordinator. As defensive coach, you rarely see them, step away from their play calling duties. And no disrespect to Larry Foote and Casey Rogers, but it's better in Bowles' hands than either one of those, I believe. James says, what guarantee was there that we were going to drive on a good defense in overtime? Right. You forget, Chiefs were top 5 defense. I know that it didn't seem like that because the Bucs put up 24 points on them, but they're a top 5 defense. There's no guarantee that they're going to go down and score. James says nobody would have been mad if he went for it and failed. I think some people would have been mad. It's one of those things where, You just should have just played for overtime. But I think a lot of people wouldn't have been mad, though. I don't say nobody, but a lot of people wouldn't have been mad. I tell you, I'm just kidding. It was a little lecture. A lot of people would have been mad. But they would have, I think they would have gotten over it too, because he's showing aggressiveness. And that's what people have been asking for. Go for it on 4th and 2. Go for it on the 2-point conversion to put the dagger in and seal the victory. Go for it here. I think that's what a lot of people have been looking for. Dave Wash says, is that Light's fault for not building the depth or Bulls for not calling the game correctly? Look, the depth was there. The depth was there at the beginning of the season. Now, they could have probably done a little bit better at linebacker. But I think a lot of us, I would say probably about 75 to 80% of the fan base, was okay rolling in with KJ Britt. Knowing he had Servassier Dennis behind him, and he was an upcoming guy and made some plays last year. And I think a lot of people were okay. And this fan base is really high on J.J. Russell because of his preseason play, too. So I think once you had Levante back, you're like, okay, well, KJ Britt balled out in the Lions game. Again, recency bias. The last thing you remember is KJ Britt balling out in the Lions game. You have Servassier Dennis, who has some good flashes last year as a rookie. I think a lot of people were fine with that. There was a minority of fans who, wanted them to grab somebody else and bring in some competition at linebacker outside of the guys in the organization. Cornerback was another one. Everyone was worried about Zion. This guy, I told y'all. You guys were the smart ones because you listen to me. But they brought in depth in Bryce Hall, right? They brought in some depth there. They had a strong number 3 corner. Now, a lot of people wanted a big name. They wanted Stephon Gilmore to ride the bench. They wanted, this guy or Xavier Howard or this guy. Xavier Howard's still on the street, by the way. They wanted this guy or that guy because they didn't trust Zion. They wanted him to start and Zion to ride the bench. Didn't happen. But they did get Bryce Hall. Bryce Hall's out for the season. They did have Servassier Dennis. Servassier Dennis out for the season. Now, the wide receiving core, it's a young group. It's a young group behind Mike and Chris. They need to get a veteran. They brought in Sterling Shepard. Shepard's looked pretty good. Played on a bum hammy. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 48 yards, long of 18 on that drive to seal the touchdown, to tie it up. 2 runs for 21 yards. One of them went for 19. He had another run last week. He had some plays last week. So there's your 3rd veteran wide receiver to bring along with guys like Jarrett and Palmer, McMillan, the rookie. So you had your veteran wide receiver with chemistry, Boomer Sooner, chemistry with Baker. So there's your depth. Offensive line. Still Opita competing with Ben Bredesen. You lose him for the year. Bucs signed Royce Newman off waivers. There's your depth. Guys who played guard, he's played right tackle. There's some depth. Injuries have taken the depth away. So now there is no depth. There is no depth at wide receiver. Mike's hurt. Chris is hurt. Jamel's hurt. Bryce is out for the season. KJ Britt is not the guy in coverage. Servassier is out for the season. Nickel depth, you're good there. Tavier Thomas hasn't played really much. Christian Izzy played 2 snaps yesterday. That's got to be explained to me. I'll be asking Bulls that later today. Why did Izzy only receive 2 snaps? He's been really good this year. There's no way to get him on the field. You can find packages to get him on the field, dime packages, where you can move Tyke Smith into that star linebacker role and get Izzy on the nickel. I get that they use a lot of 2 tight ends and 3 tight ends, and you got to be a little bit big. But I feel like you got to get Izzy on the field for more than 2 snaps. But again, there's a depth, I don't think it's even Bulls calling the game incorrectly. I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's Patrick frickin' Mahomes. He's going to make some plays. You know that. Patrick is not going to go a game without making plays. Even with all of his numbers down this year, he's going to make plays. Now, it's on Light to look at this team and say that depth we had is not there anymore. This inside linebacker we thought was going to be fine in coverage and over the middle of the field is not there. Levante had a strong game. Levante is still not the same player he's been in coverage. He had a great play. I think it was on Xavier Worthy where he blew him up for -2 yards, showing that he can still read and react well, but he's not the same athlete he used to be. It's on Jason. Trade deadline. We've got 3 hours and 20 minutes to make a move at linebacker, at corner, at wide receiver. Those are your 3 spots you need help at. And I don't even think you need help at wide receiver as much because you're getting Mike back in a week. Technically 2 with the bye week, but a week of a game. Hopefully, fingers crossed for that. I know he's rehabbing pretty strong, trying to get back. Dean, maybe you get back soon too, but I still think you need depth behind them. You could still use a guy, and they signed Troy Hill. I don't think he's the solution there, but it gives you a nice scout team cornerback. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think Jason does anything. I think this trade deadline comes and goes, and all we are is dust in the wind. It says we're going to win or lose with our guys. And then that brings the question, is that a vote of confidence for Bulls? Has he seen the trend of OCs leaving? Is well, let's let him sink or swim with what we got, which is also a little bit unfair if that is the case, because if you look at it, Bulls has never had a chance to go out and make a splash in free agency or say, hey, I really want this guy. Let's go get this edge rusher. Let's go get that guy. They've drafted towards the end of the round every year, which is good, which is great. You want that. No real opportunity to pick up an impact guy. The one year that they did have the 19th pick, again, late middle of the round, they got Kalijah Kancey, 2 sacks. We've seen what Kancey can do to a game on the field. We see the flashes of what he can become. But no money really to go out and sign anybody. Yeah, they signed Whitehead back, but that was just as much as a Bull signing as it was a Jason Light signing too. They wanted him back. They regretted. Jason has talked about how that's one of his biggest regrets is letting Whitehead go, and they needed that presence. And he's had some up and down games recently. Started the season off hot, but for an impact guy. And again, GMs will give you the spiel, and Jason will say it too. If there's a reason that guys are available, whether it's due to age, personality. Sometimes it's just the team didn't want to pay him the money, and no one was going to trade for him. You can get plenty of. I don't buy that because you can get plenty of quality guys in free agency, and not just sleeper finds like Shaq Barrett. There's plenty of guys who can make an impact on their team in free agency that come available for one reason or for another. So I don't buy that. 100%. I get what he's saying. But I don't think they make a move. So it's regardless. Cast with the friendly ghost. James says JC is right. The defense was gassed. You can't risk putting them back out on the field. No, 8 minutes and 30 seconds they're on the field. And then they're off the field for 1 minute 40 seconds. 1:49. Sorry. Get technical on you guys. They're gassed. They're tired. Exhausted. Bryce says I go for 2, but honestly, that's because I see the game the same as Dan Campbell. He coaches like a teenager playing Madden. Just go for it. Just go for it. Tight end slant every time. It's going to be there eventually. Especially if you're on the left hash. That will open up for you eventually. Just got to scramble a little bit. Field was wet. That certainly didn't hinder the Chiefs at all. Jamel Dean is great in press man, too soft in zone. Yeah, he's great in run support too. Can't take that away from Jamel. Zone coverage isn't, but you put him in press man, he's one of the top corners in the league. Bryce says nobody had the Bucs without Evans, Godwin, Miller, or even Dean taking the Chiefs to overtime. Be upset with the coaching all you want. No one could be upset with that game overall. It was a great game. If you were just watching Monday Night Football, that was a great freaking game to watch. If you're not invested in either fan base and you're like, I'm just watching Monday Night Football because it's Monday Night Football, you're like, we got a banger of a game here. And you also came away respecting the Bucs more. You also came away with wow, the Bucs, they could be for real. Are we sleeping on the Bucs? Are people sleeping on the Bucs? Are we not talking about the Bucs now? Well, they're 4-6 now, but are we not? Or 4-5 now, but are we not talking about the Bucs enough? They did that without who? Who's that offensive coordinator? At one point, I was like, stop talking about Liam Cohen. Stop talking about him. Stop making the other people aware of this guy. You know? People are like, who's Liam Cohen? What is he doing with this offense? There's nobody there. I don't even know these guys. I know Rashawn White, because he was good in fantasy last year, but who the hell are these other people? What exactly is a Cade Otton? What is he doing out there? They got Bucky Irving? Is he named after Bucky's the gas station? No? I don't know. They'll put a lot of people on. The Bucs are a good team when they're on. The Bucs have a good offense, even without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And that's a big shout out to Liam Cohen for putting these guys in the proper places. Again, this is coming on short weeks. He had to get ready for Atlanta on a short week. You got an extra day to prepare against the Chiefs. But now he's, again, on a short week against the 49ers, who are coming off of a bye week, and Christian McCaffrey comes back. The defense hasn't been great for the 49ers. They've made some plays. They got people all over the field, Warners and Boses and all that. And it's going to be a tough battle for the Bucs, but they can put up 24, 26 points. Again, it comes on to the defense. You got to make plays, got to make stops. You got to. Nathan says Cade Otton is what the Buccaneers allow him to be. If he's not meant to be a decoy in a play, the guy can ball. Yeah, he's a baller. The offsides in overtime. No phone. I don't know what that is, but no clue how they missed that. That was blatant jump offsides. And Jawan Taylor's been doing it all season. Like, as a ref, you got to know. Like, you can't just show up on Monday Night Football and be like, all right, I'm here to ref. Like, this isn't Pop Warner. You got to study these teams as well, too, and know some of their tendencies. And you got to know kind of, okay, this is what they're going to do in this situation. This is what, or at least get someone give them a one sheet, right? Someone from the NFL, give them a one sheet. Like, here's what they've been called for all season. Here's this. Here's the players. Someone give these refs a one sheet. Jeez Louise. Great game now. We got to take care of the 49ers. Bucs go on a run of 8 wins to finish the season, and Bowles will be loved by the fan base and media again. I don't know if he'll be loved by the fan base. And there's no hate coming here from Bowles. I disagree with some of the things he does, but I think Bowles is a really good coach, a genuine person. And I believe this team loves him. The question some of his decisions making sometimes, yeah. Do I? Yeah. Does everybody? Yeah. I don't, fans are fickle. Fans want wins. That's all they care about. If Bowles gets him a Super Bowl, he'll be the next name on the Ring of Honor. If he doesn't, then they don't care. Speaking of Bowles, Rashad says Bowles has no nuts or guts. It don't matter who they bring in, because when it's 4th and 2 in a tie game in the fourth quarter, Bowles is going to punt instead of trying to go for a win. We have a great team. The coaching is soft and scary. I'm assuming he means head coaching. Why he didn't go back to cornerback? Isian is always a nickel cornerback. That's what you're talking about. So Tyke's in that role and just crushing it. Another forced fumble. He's just a stud. One of the steals of the draft. If not the steal. He's just a stud. Rashad says that's why you don't punt to him and allow them to have a long field and run off 8 minutes. How many times the defense gets gassed after punting and getting ran through for 10 minutes? And 4th and 2, you're backed up in your own territory. Like, I'll get the playlist right now and tell you exactly where they are in that fourth. Where is it? Where are we at? I'm trying to find it, guys. But, like, you're backed up. Like, I completely get that. Bad punt by Gill. They're lucky they got, yeah. I mean, you're at the 24-yard line. It's 4th and 16. If that's the one you're talking about, like, you got to punt there. You got to punt there. Oh, you're talking about the one before, the 8-minute drive. Okay. Yeah, 4th and 2, but you're still at the 38, man. That's tough. Like, 38, they're already in field goal range. I get you're saying if you're closer to midfield, I get that. Like if you're at the 48 even, like yeah, because they're out of field goal range there, you know. You're 50, you're like that's a 67-yard field goal, 68-yard field. Like I get that. I get that. But the 38, man, you're in field goal range for Harrison Butker. Can't do that. Can't risk that. Yeah, Bowles is not going to be going anywhere. The Bucs will finish the season. Bowles' job will be safe, and Bowles and line are very tight. No big plays from Winfield or Whitehead all year. Winfield had a fumble recovery for a touchdown his first game back from injuries. So, but yeah, not enough. Not enough. I agree. Bowles was the reason they were on the field that long. Go for it on 4th and 2. That's today's NFL offense. Offense are good, way too good to punt all the time. You got to have bits and guts if you're a 500 coach struggling. The next drive, Andy Reid goes for it on 4th. It's a different situation. The next drive, all right, Andy Reid goes for it on 4th. Let's look at it. Okay. Kansas City, got it. Go for it on 4th and 2. That was 4th and 1. Was that Kansas City 46? Again, I agree with that. At the 46, 48-yard line, go for it. I agree with that call. 38, you're too backed up, man. Too backed up. Too backed up. Especially when you're already down. You're down at that point. You're down at that point. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. No, you're not down. We're tied up at that point. We're tied up at 17. I still don't think you can do it there. Still don't think you can do it. Clock says we can't put Otton on the shelf. He gets to be a part of this offense from this point on. Money to this guy. Is Jalen in the doghouse with Baker over the hammy flare-up? Maybe. Jalen McMillan lit it up in training camp, and he's been since. Like, miscommunication, not being there. And he's a rookie, so he's still learning the nuances and stuff like that. He's a very technical route runner. Sometimes you just got to play football, bro. Go to the Buick. And I think that's what's kind of missing from his game right now. Like Baker's seeing something, he's not seeing it. You got to see it. You got to see that. Like you're in zone coverage. There's this soft spot in the middle. And that was a good part of his game in college, was being able to identify the soft spots in zone. But I feel like he's too, again, as a rookie, there's so much going on in your brain. New playbook, new team, new city, new coaches, new everything. Everything's swirling around. So the speed of the game is so quickly. It's difficult to really kind of just play ball sometimes. And it took Yaya half a season for that. It took Kalijah Cansey, was a rare exception. Started right away. It's just a baller right when he got back. But a lot of guys, it takes a minute. So is he in the doghouse? We'll see. He's got to get healthy. He's in the doghouse until he's not, until he can play. That's for sure. Got to get healthy and prove it. Got to prove that trust. It's all about trust. Can't trust him. You can't do anything. So, but guys, it's not all doom and gloom. Like I said, it's not all doom and gloom, and I don't want to make this podcast all about it, because the Buccaneers took the defending back-to-back Super Bowl champion Chiefs, the undefeated Chiefs, into overtime. No other team can say they've done that this season. They're the only team that the Chiefs have not been able to beat in 4 quarters. That says something. The offense is clicking. The offense is moving. Defense needs to figure it out. Tighten things up. Offense will get better. Defense will get better with Jamel Dean. Again, you would like to see them make a move at linebacker, but I don't think, A, there's one to be out there, B, not for the price they want to pay, and C, Light's already down a 6th-round pick. He doesn't really make in-season trades. The last one was in 2020 for Steve McClendon. Made one for Mark Barron and somebody else. I forget who it was a long time ago, but he doesn't make moves in season like that. Take a little bit, but you got the bye week coming up too. So like if you're going to make a move, like and you don't think you can get them ready this week, you have 2 weeks to get someone ready for the long stretch. And speaking of that long stretch, it's still a very winnable stretch. You come out of the bye week and, you've got a lot of winnable games there. You've got a lot of winnable games. You start with New York Giants, then the Panthers, then the Raiders, then the Chargers. Cowboys are struggling. Panthers are, right now the Chargers look like the toughest team on this trip. The Saints just fired Dennis Allen. And again, as I wrote in the beginning of the season, Spencer Rattler's going to be in probably by then. They'll either trade Carr or cut Carr or bench Carr or whatever they got to do with him. But he won't be there. Big shout out to my sponsor, FanGo Tickets, who this podcast is presented by. We usually do this post game, but Monday night it's way too late. So FanGo Tickets, your number one source for live events in Tampa Bay. They're doing some awesome things. Again, locally owned, so we always want to support our local owned businesses here in Tampa, especially after the hurricane came in and has done so much damage. But with FanGo Tickets, if you're afraid of being, blitzed by the big ticket companies, turn to FanGo for your exclusive locally owned and operated Tampa Bay ticketing partner that offers fans like you full transparency. When I say full transparency, they literally show you what they're making off the ticket, what they're selling the ticket for, what the taxes are, and what they're making on the ticket. They prioritize fair pricing, no hidden fees, nothing wrapped into the ticket pricing as well, so that Tampa fans can enjoy events without unexpected costs. Visit fangotickets.com for unbeatable prices, personalized seat selection, local partnerships that will take your game day to the next level. Again, they are continuing to expand and do even bigger things as well. Saints just sent Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders. So Marshawn, Mike Evans rivalry dead. We won't see that again this season unless they play each other in the playoffs, which would be interesting. But check out FanGo, exclusive ticket partner of the Pirate Parlay podcast. Again, check out Bucs Cruise. We're not going to do the full read, but Bucs Cruise, you guys already know about it. If you don't, learn about it because it's freaking awesome. March 7th to the 10th, Key West, Bimini, Bahamas. So many players. Christian Wirfs was just announced. I know I let that slip earlier a couple of weeks ago, but he'll be out there. You guys have till December 11th to get your tickets again. Perfect gift for a family member for Christmas or your family. Brother, daughter, son, sister, mother, wife, husband, whatever. Check it out. So many Bucs players. Jordan Whitehead, Brad Johnson, Trey Palmer, Yaya Diaby, Kalijah Kancey, Jamel Dean, Cade Otton, Graham Barton, Luke Gedeke, Tristan Wirfs, so many guys, so much fun things to do. All inclusive. Your food is rolled in, your beverages are rolled in, your Wi-Fi is rolled in, and it's fair pricing. So definitely check that out. And of course, our partners over at Mosley Heating and Check them out. Give them a call at 813-230-3742 or visit Mosley Heating and Air. Service plans, repairs, maintenance, all that and more over at Mosley Heating and Air. So check them out over there. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate everybody watching. Like, share, turn on notifications, turn on reminders. Share this with people who are Bucs fans. Let them know. Get this in front of more people. Let's build this. You guys are my little community here. I appreciate everyone, especially all the regulars that pop in here. It really does mean a lot to me. But that's going to do it here at the Pirate Parlay podcast. Brighter futures ahead. Brighter futures ahead. One game to get through. Hopefully the Bucs can pull that off, go into the bye week 500. Again, I had the Bucs going in 500 and going on a run to get to 11-6 to end the year. So if they can pull this off, which I had the Bucs winning this game in my preseason predictions, they'll be in a good shape for the rest of the season. They'll get some guys back healthy. Maybe make a move. We'll see. Fingers crossed. You got about 3 hours left to see if Light does something. We'll see what he does. But if he doesn't, they're rolling with the guys they have. But a really winnable schedule in the back half. That's going to do it for me here at Pirate Parlay Podcast. Thank you to you guys as well. As always, thank you to my sponsors. Thank you to Sick Podcast Network. Find me over at JCL NFL at Twitter. SI Bucks Game Day. Have a few articles coming out, including my takeaways from this game. Find all that stuff over there. Until later this week, we're out of here. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.